suicidal opened my eyes up to a lot of stuff. That was a hard part of my life. I wasn't suicidal because I was selfish. I was suicidal because I didn't want my wife and my kids to have to go through that. You know, suicide is an escape for that person for what they're dealing with. Suicide is an escape for you not to have to put those people through that. It's not a cry for help. It's more a cry for recognition. They just want that attention from other people, and it's not. It really isn't. It's almost, in fact, attention is the last thing people who are contemplating suicide want. They're so deep within themselves, and they don't want to burden people. Because if they didn't care to understand where I got to this point, why would they understand what I'm going through now? And a lot of people brush it off. Yeah, whatever. He just wants attention. He's not thinking right. You know, it's mindset. Even with anxiety, it's all in your head. Because you wouldn't believe how many times you hear that from people. It's all in your head. Unfortunately, it is. It is all in your head. But it also is a mental illness. It is a mental disease. I've helped so many people with anxiety. It's pretty crazy the magnitude of effect I've had on people's lives with anxiety. Being able to reach out to so many people with this, the internet and the way the internet is amazing. Being able to reach out to so many people on that level it's so beneficial. With the anxiety, I developed a phobia of vomiting. When you have that phobia, it's different. It affects every day of your life. People do not understand. It's affecting your day-to-day life. People become agoraphobic. People commit suicide over just having the fear of living like that every day. You know, I'm dealing with anxiety, I'm dealing with emetophobia, I was dealing with depression. Just because I hid it well doesn't mean that I don't have it. That is just such a cop-out. It wasn't until the internet came out where I'm like, oh, this guy suffers from this too. And then you realize there's a term for it, emetophobia. What is that? Imagine this. Imagine you're just relaxing and your stomach gurgles a little bit. Normal people think I'm hungry. Not for an emetophobic. Like that's it. Anxiety kicks in right away. What if I got a stomach flu? What if I'm sick? What if it's food poisoning? And then the panic sets in. I don't think people understand how much of an effect anxiety has. I was talking to my doctor, and the amount of stress that my body goes through with an anxiety attack, it is equivalent to getting into a car accident and breaking every bone in your body. That's the amount of stress your body goes through in the healing process. So imagine going through that every day of your life. Imagine how you're going to be as a person. You have this illness, which is anxiety, and then you develop this illness, which is this phobia. With anxiety naturally comes nausea. Well, then with nausea, your phobia kicks in. You're dealing with this every day. It's exhausting. We're a very close family, me, my wife, and my children. My wife called me and she's, let's have a pizza party. I'm like, okay. So she went out all day and she grabbed the dough and she grabbed all the ingredients. So I get home after working and the dough was sticky. And we were trying to stretch out the dough and it just wasn't stretching out. I gave my wife such an attitude. I was so angry, like everything was her fault. So I stopped and I went and I took a shower. It was almost like a reality check. Here I am driving home in my car. I'm not taking a bus. I'm not walking. I'm driving home in my vehicle. I'm driving home to my home, a roof over my head, to my healthy children, to my wife who went all day getting these materials. What's the problem? You don't realize that it's irritability. So you turn that negative into an extra negative. Instead, where you should be flipping it. And that's where I started breaking out of my shell and started thinking more of other people. Before it was always myself. People don't realize suicide. That's the thing. I mean, I'm sure, if I was talking to my parents about suicide or my sister or even my brother-in-law, I mean, my parents, they're all great people, but I don't think people take it serious enough. For me, leading up to what I was going to do, my first thoughts were my kids and my wife. I wasn't able to enjoy life. And it wasn't for me because I was fine. It was my wife, it was my kids. I couldn't put them through that anymore. I was in a bad mood all the time. I'm sure I put my wife through hell. You know, Valerie is a beautiful woman. She'll be okay. She'll be able to find somebody after a while. My kids were still young. They're not gonna know. Let me end this so they can have a better life. I had everything set. I had a safety deposit box filled with money for her. I had life insurance. My company was all set up. She would have taken over everything. She had asked me to go see this woman who was an energy healer, and she begged me and she begged me. And I thought, okay, I'll go see this woman, and the day after, I'll do it. And I went to see that woman, and she changed my life without me even knowing she changed my life. And that is where all my healing process started to really kick in and started to really take effect. But the suicide was always on the back of my mind. After I got home that night, I remember Valerie coming down the stairs. I was lying on the couch, and she had just put Sebastian to sleep. I don't know what it was. It was just the way she looked at me. It was just comfort. This woman dealt with me for like 5 years and put up with me and never gave up. I can't do this. I can't do this to her. She deserves a fair shot at me. She deserved me. I took life on a whole different level, and I started to make those changes for myself, for my family.